The Banality of Evil by Hannah Arendt. Arendt is a historical, political kind of commentary, cultural take, psychological too. It's on the character of, actually, the full thing is Eichmann in Jerusalem. That's the title, and the subtitle is On the Banality of Evil, I think. Or is it the other way around? On the Banality of Evil, Eichmann in Jerusalem? No, I think it's the former. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's about Adolf Eichmann. Arendt takes a singular focus on him, and she was a political philosopher and former student, and at one point a lover of Martin Heidegger, who I guess at some point they probably crossed paths, they kind of drifted away from each other, I guess, ideologically, I'm assuming, because Heidegger went south, I guess, and into the bowels and the seduction of German Nazism. It became he wasn't at the forefront of being like, hey, SS Schaffenwaffel, or go kill those Jews. I don't think he was doing that, but on the kind of idea of it, I guess, the abstract kind of ideology of Nazism, I guess he was kind of in alignment with. So yeah, I guess she starts talking about Adolf Eichmann, and it's been some time since I read it. I think 22, 23, I picked it up and I heard it, and I kept hearing about Hannah Arendt, and I was heard maybe some interviews and heard kind of a slight background, and she's her being German, I believe, and then later American, I believe. She had moved to America, United States, to kind of maybe escape the kind of manic madness of the delirium of maybe Europe, I guess, at the time, and I don't blame her, because that's a lot of different Germans did when the war came around. They kind of ducked out of there, and I can't even begin to understand the magnitude of loss and confusion and the true severity of what happened. I can only kind of look through kind of a little kind of obfuscated lens into the past and kind of understand. And one gem of this little, it's not little, but on this treatise of this kind of thing and into the life of Adolf Eichmann is the fact that the reason it's called the Banality of Evil, which I love that term. I keep using it, even if people don't know what I mean. It is something that I have noticed a trend with too. Sometimes I use it a little bit jokingly too, but it's this notion that evil, you get the idea that evil is, in layman's terms, is just what's behind evil. The people pushing evil are these manic kind of mustachioed Bond villain-esque kind of laughing and twirling their mustache as they bask in their glory, hogging up all the glory and kind of just being this is the way to go. And there are some people like that. And in Germany it seemed to be kind of a very select few of people, and what happened was this is why Hitler was so kind of in that weird evil genius category, because he understood this, as Jung called it, the collective unconscious of the German people, I think. You had 8 million German people who were seduced by him. In fact, they were hook, line, and sinker bought into this ideology, and he did that by basically appealing to their fear and appealing to their nationalism and being Germany is the underdog. We have to fight back. You have to take it back from the Jewish intruders, and we have to turn them against one another. And he used that kind of propaganda to manipulate them, and it was a slow process. Hitler was well into middle age before I think he even was able to. I think 1933, and then there are times when beforehand he was his life was kind of a little bit pitiful. It was a little bit he pittance to show for it. Like he had like basically an art kind of background, was trying to sell his art, and people said that his art was like oddly, almost through the eyes of more of an engineer kind of architect than it was like an actual heart of a person, kind of, which makes sense in some ways. And in that sense, he kind of drifted his attention towards like what was going on around him and the political tumult at the time. And yeah, this is just my rusty knowledge on it, but yeah, that's how he started to get to power, and then came the night of, what was it called? The night of the, was it Long Knives or something? Night of the Long Knives. It started with the small things, like like I think I mentioned Darren Brown on here before, like using kind of like really small kind of things, like a little foot to get your foot in the door, I think it's called. He said the term. To kind of behaviorally, psychologically, to get somebody to be on your side, you have to kind of get them, seduce them with tiny little, keep using that words, but it's such a good word. But you have to entice them, you have to importune them, I guess, into doing little tricks and stuff for you to, because that's where it starts. And that's, that's how we won him over. And that's, the going back to the banality of evil, Eichmann says that, or I'm sorry, Arendt says that Adolf Eichmann was the antithesis to evil being, to this cartoon, evil being this kind of like, aforementioned mustachioed villain, like somebody obsessed and lusting for power. Eichmann wasn't necessarily that. He was an average guy, not particularly outspoken, not particularly not argumentative, just kind of like placid, I think that's the word. Almost imperturbed, I think. Like he wasn't remarkably, he was kind of skinny by the time, especially because when they found him on the trial, and they tried him in Jerusalem to kind of, as the most fitting form of that, because he was the one who literally kind of was ordered like a lot, and was like the main Holocaust kind of program of what Nazi Germany was kind of like, the onus was dropped on him to kind of carry out, like it was him who was like taking down, like kind of second to maybe hands down from Hitler himself, to kind of carry out the Holocaust. And of course he didn't go there in person, wasn't like reveling it up. It was more like I just had to do what had to be done. Like I was asked to do something and I followed the orders, to the point where he even followed a Kantian code, I think, is like Arendt mentions in the book. She mentions that and she was at the trial too. She was also at their I don't think she was transcribing, but she was definitely kind of soaking in like what was happening. There's pictures for in the background in the seats, and so it was like, for her that was a very real moment. And she's so when she says that Eichmann, and of course it happened in 1962, I think, and I think it was found like I think not too long before. I think it was like maybe late 50s, early 60s. This is why I'm not a historian. He was found running around Argentina, I think, or is it Brazil? Somewhere South America, which is not uncommon for the kind of high-ranking Nazi member, to go there. Like a lot of them, like even in Nuremberg, or even like the ones who lived or to far long enough to get tried there. Goering, I think, immediately went for like the kind of like the easiest way of kind of like trying to take cyanide capsules, and like ended up was able to sneak that in, because like the dishonor of like being like kind of like there's dying for the cause shows the severity of it, really, in their minds. But Eichmann, strangely wasn't like that. He was more cowardly. He was like, I'm just gonna go hang out in Argentina, just lay low, just like cowardly to the core. He had no backbone. And I don't want to be like one of those people that so many people in the biographies, and they do like documentaries, and that's why I'm very hit or miss on documentaries. It's like they'll this is just me, my little personal opinion, but the vibes thing, if you will. But it's when people do this thing where they're like, yeah, Hitler was a horrible person, this and this and this. It's like, we get it, you know, like, you know, there's people like, one documentary of it was like, almost made me like laugh out loud. It was something maybe from the 80s or 90s of like people who kind of historians or people who might have been kind of in the know of maybe like when of Hitler maybe in his youth, more as his personal biographers or historians or whatever were just saying like Hitler was lazy. He was as a kid, as a teenager, he slept in till noon. He also was a great opium addict too. It's like, okay, jeez, as if his uncleanliness was close to like it doesn't even matter, because I think like another side of Hitler that I've heard too countless times is that he was very cleanly. Like he was very, there was like this disgust towards like the German, like the Jewish and the like Slavic too, like slavish, that they were lesser people because they're like and maybe he was uncleanly in his own way, but it's just no correlation between that. It's between laziness. I mean, for all we know, like the Japanese like who like the Japanese kind of army that wiped out like almost all of Manchuria, or on the rape of Nanking too. They were super industrious, probably the most committed, fit, like martial arts, like just like most committed, disciplined people ever. Like super conscientious, but evil as fuck. So there's no, I just kind of let you probably know by now, probably. But anyway, lost my train of thought. But yeah, no, Eichmann wasn't that like kind of person that would have stayed by Hitler's side and beat through his hand. He was more of a, you know, lay low, see where my opportunities lie. He was more like following the code down to the essence, like what was he told to do. And then Arendt says that he comes from a background of a kind of like almost like upper middle class kind of thing for Germany of the day. Like he came from this family that was like kind of in the middle class, but like a little bit privileged to him. But he joined the army and he did his terms and he did his thing, but like he didn't see any great value of war. Like he wouldn't. He was probably stationed in kind of a cozy setting, and from there he basically kind of seeded his way into bureaucracy, basically just kind of doing as he was told, and this was the great mystery to Hannah Arendt, because she was like, how does a man do that? How does he live with himself knowing he acted this way? And he's like, I don't know, like I just, you know, like he just followed the orders as I was instructed to do, and there's nothing more to it. And that's kind of how he got himself in that place, and which was him ultimately getting hanged, execution by hanging, and I believe like about 62 or 63, not long after his trial. It was pretty quick, to the point, you know, there wasn't like any like justice didn't take too long on that. There was no due process on that. It was kind of like, nor was it like a kind of a violent kind of. There was of course a lot of emotion in the room, but it wasn't like oh, Eichmann's so evil, let's kill him right away. It's like, it wasn't kind of like what happened to, what's his face, Beria, I think in the Soviet Union, like all these people just like kind of, all the Russian compatriots, all and former comrades, just throwing him into the like in this mock, kind of, not mock execution, but like a very, ersatz, lazy, kind of, just, you know, get it over with kind of like messy execution. But yeah, the Eichmann kind of, he was just the image of the kind of top down bureaucrat, no personality, no insight or curiosity into what he's doing. In a sense, almost a bit maybe autistic or not able to read social cues, but that's kind of just pure conjecture. I'm not entirely sure, because I don't want to be taking any more responsibility off of him than he has, even long after he's dead. But this mentality I've seen before. This evil is that's how evil is done. Is it's, I think, for the most part, a small percentage of kind of the group of the in group are actually gung ho, super gung ho about Hitler or about Mayo or about Mayo, sorry, or Zedong or Kim Jong Il. Even they're just not. The rest of them, it's hard to get people who are everybody's gung ho. So what you do is you set up a system where you get all these people to kind of do the dirty work with kind of something in some exchange in mind, some reciprocity in mind, which in it, like for Eichmann, I'm not even sure what that would have been. Was it like because it wasn't on account of honor, it wasn't on account of like homeland and the Third Reich, lasting 1,000 years. Like I don't even know if he cared that much. Like I don't think he really cared what was happening in the present moment. Or I think that's the only thing he really paid attention to was this kind of immediate present moment kind of task. He's just like, get it done, don't think about it, don't dwell on it. I don't know what's happening to them. And then he even mentioned, I think he mentioned at one point, he was saying like, oh, I even tried to help save some of the Jews. I actually, like, when there was a commission for me to get for me to wipe out like something like certain hundreds of thousands of them. It's like I actually was one of the first of my kind to convince the Führer to transport them to, I forget where it was, in somewhere Southern Europe or somewhere, to like out of the way, in maybe Spain or something, and to hold them there for the timekeeping before killing them. But that's again, it's like kind of the consequential. It's kind of like, oh well, he tried at some point. It's like the very least, but I think even that, like, that was kind of like a unsuccessful. I think, like, I don't think he even was able to get that as many as he said, like, choose to be spared. But yeah, definitely fascinating, I think, piece of writing by Hannah Arendt. I think that's all I have. Kind of running dry at the moment, to be honest. Thanks for watching. See you.